It's time for a quick time update of the Douglas County Board of Commissioners meeting that was held on the 17th of July up at Lake Tahoe. And at that meeting, I should introduce my guest here. Interim County Manager Larry Werner is going to be answering all the questions. And Larry, commissioners heard a presentation on the 7 county manager candidates that have been selected. And what are the next steps in the process now that we have the 7?
Thanks, Lloyd. Yeah, I'd be happy to do that. As you said, the 7 were presented, and they appear to be 7 highly qualified candidates. I think it's going to be a good slate. But the next steps are August 4th. There will be external and internal panels, external being community business and internal being county staff, to kind of interview the candidates. I think there's going to be two external and 2 internal, so quite a few folks involved. So that'll be the 4th itself. Then the evening of the 4th at the CVI, at the CVI.
Carson Valley Inn.
Carson Valley Inn, excuse me,
Okay.
yes.
A lot of C's.
Yeah.
Carson Valley Inn.
There'll actually be a reception, a public reception where folks can come in and meet and greet, and each one of the candidates will give a little briefing of themselves, a little postage snippet, and an opportunity. Then on the 5th, we being the county staff, will take the candidates in a bus and tour them around the county, starting at South County and ending up at South Lake Tahoe, then back down here in the valley. And at that point, they'll meet one-on-one with the county commissioners, and trying to be a meet and greet kind of thing, not a formal interview process. Then on August 18th, they'll all come back in for formal interviews. That'll be a special board meeting just to interview the candidates. I believe that's a Monday. And then at the result of that, the next step would be the September 4th Board of County Commissioners meeting, where the board will select their top candidate, and at that point, we'll start looking at negotiating contracts and that sort of thing.
Okay, so that process really has moved along.
It has, yes.
Well, also at that meeting, commissioners approved an agreement for the allocation of catalyst funds, up to $75,000 for new logic research for the creation of 30 jobs. Can you give us a little more detail on the Catalyst Fund?
Sure. The Catalyst Fund is a program out of the Governor's Office. It's what they call GoEd, which is the Governor's Office of Economic Development. And it's funding that's made available to companies that meet certain criteria and agree to develop certain number of jobs over a certain period of time. And it's actually a reimbursement per job created based on a contract. And in this case, New Logic agrees to develop so many jobs in the first 12 months, next 12 months, and a third 12-month period. At the ultimate end of this was to be developing 50 jobs. They seem to be on target and they're looking at maybe developing 60 jobs, which is really good. The jobs appear to be around $18 per hour on average, not counting management. So it's a good program, and it's done on a reimbursement basis where they create the jobs, and then we then turn around and provide them money through the county that comes to the county from the state, and it goes to the company, and it's on a per job created basis provided it meets the minimum.
There was another item on the allocation of catalyst funds, and this one is dealing with Crystech Interconnects, and that's a company that's been here a while.
That's correct, and in that case we're modifying an existing contract. We're changing the reporting requirements. Initially the idea was to report, I believe it was monthly, and it's just not necessary. It's a lot of paperwork that just doesn't really need to happen, so we're modifying that frequency. And it's also to amend the contract to state that if there's any kind of an issue on the providing of these funds to the Governor's Office through us to the companies, if there's legal issues with that, then the county's not held liable for any of that. And then the companies understand that if for some reason they have to give the money back, then they can't come back to us and claim any kind of a problem. So
I see. Well, commissioners also awarded a professional services contract. This was to Ascent Environment for preparation of the environmental documents for the Tahoe-Douglas Area Plan and the South Shore Area Plan at a cost of $58,000.
Right, and this is I believe it's to now start the planning for the Phase 2 area, and to kind of address some of the environmental questions that TRPA had regarding the planning that was done by the city or the county. So essentially, it'll help help us as far as looking at traffic and all the other water quality and environmental issues. But it's something that will ultimately be a benefit to the county in its future planning. So.
And commissioners approved with some changes a resolution revising the residential allocation policy for the Lake Tahoe portion of Douglas County.
Right, and essentially we're trying to come up with a process that ties an allocation to a building permit so that we can make the allocations available, which are required to get a building permit, make it to the point that if you do get an allocation, then you have to convert that to a building permit within a certain period of time, and I believe it was 180 days that they're looking toward to do that. And if you don't do that, then the allocation comes back and then goes to the next person on the waiting list to be able to construct their home. In the past, apparently they were not tied to any real performance, and there was concerns there that people who were not ready were getting these allocations, and it didn't seem to be fair. So
Okay.
trying to work it out.
Commissioners also approving the Upper Cave Rock water tank rehabilitation project.
Right. This one's an interesting one. It's an old tank that's up above Cave Rock, and it needs to be rehabilitated. It's leaking, and one of the fix is to put a liner in it. The problem we have is there's no road that goes to it, so it's going to have to be done for either helicopters or back in to get this tank done. And then the other thing that has to happen is that it is a working tank. So when we take it down to take the water out of it and put the liner in, we've got to make sure we've got adequate flows coming from other areas to provide fire protection, domestic use, that sort of thing. So a little bit of a complex issue for a pretty simple job.
Okay, and also Commissioners introducing an ordinance to amend Douglas County Code. This was to establish a speed limit of 15 miles an hour in the Olive Park General Improvement District.
Right. Part of the issue here was the multi-use trails that are being constructed in the area, and there was recently tied a trail into Cale Drive. The concerns there were there's some visibility issues and a narrowness of Cale Drive that the Oliver Park GID directors felt that there was a problem with speed and we needed to slow everybody down the area. So they held a series of hearings, adopted a recommendation, forwarded that to the county commissioners, who then agreed with them and will introduce this into an ordinance. So.
Okay, well that pretty much takes a look at the July 17 meeting of the Douglas County Board of Commissioners. That's our quick time update. I'm Lloyd Higuera for Interim County Manager Larry Werner.